do you have any burning questions about using the Equiband, about getting results with the Equiband, or best strategies and tips and tricks for using the Equiband? Well, basically, I started the channel to track my Equiband journey and in the process help anybody else that was also facing the same struggles. And then along the way, you guys started posting a lot of great questions on a number of videos. And so I figured that I would make this series where I answer all of these questions in a video, because if one person asked, chances are more than one person has the question. So I hope that this helps, and I'll probably make like a compilation with all the questions in one, but then also break them out into individual videos as well. So if you're new here, welcome back to #Team Fuego, where I'm an upper level eventer and equestrian. I have about 20 years under my belt of taking care and managing horses. That is a full-time job. And unfortunately, it's one of those jobs where you have to really learn as you go. And so whenever I come up with hacks and ways to easily maintain and care for horses, I always make sure to post those videos as well. But today we're talking about the Equiband and questions that you guys have about the Equiband specifically. And I'm not trying to dox anybody who's asking me these questions, so I would just like to say up front, thank you for asking these questions, and if you want recognition, I'm more than happy to tag you in it or things like that of that nature. But anyway, I went back and forth on it because on one hand, I don't want to discredit people for the questions, but then on the other hand, I wasn't trying to dox anybody who didn't want to, be public on the internet. All right, so our first question is, how long should I do it if I'm just starting out? I love your videos, and this has been so helpful. All right. I did not pay them to say that. Question, how long should I do it if I'm just starting out? I always say in all my videos to start with just 10 minutes. And I also made a video that I'll link here, there, anywhere, talking about the physical signs of what you can do to audit how your horse is handling the workload. So I always say start with just 10 minutes, because I was shocked at how hard my horse was breathing after just using it for 10 minutes. And really, you don't have to only use it for 10 minutes forever. However, it's a great place to start to see like your foundation of where you're at. And that's actually a part. So I made an online course called the Equi-Course Bootcamp, where I walk people through step by step how to build the proper program for your horse using the Equiband. And there's a video I want to add, which is before you get started doing, like, figuring out what your baseline is, figuring out where your horse is starting from. And one of those things, and it includes using it for 10 minutes, and then it includes auditing their physical signs as they, after that 10 minutes, like how hard are they breathing? How long does it take them to recover? Like how long does it take them to get back to a normal breath rate? And then the third one is doing these 2 stretches that I can also link that video somewhere, where these 2 stretches where you can see right now how strong your horse's abs are and how strong their hind end is at this exact moment. Of course, in terms of how long to maintain that 10 minutes, it's going to depend on your horse and what your horse tells you. So the answer to the question, how long should I do it if I'm just starting out, is 10 minutes, but how long you stay at 10 minutes is going to depend on your horse. And then also, I just want to say thank you, because the fact that you find my videos helpful really just validates why I started creating these videos in the first place. Honestly, the reason I started making these videos was because it was what I wish I had when I first got started. And so the fact that they're helping people is literally exactly why I started creating them in the first place. So I just have to tell you thank you, because it's always nice to hear that why you did something is actually true. It's actually like it's working. And I hope these videos continue to keep helping people the more I make, because the longer I use the Equiband for, the more I learned about it, and the better the advice has gotten over the years. From my first video, which I can link somewhere, but it's like basically me just walking my horse around, and he's like looking at me like, what the heck did you put on me? But anyway, I just want to say thank you, because as much as I love making these videos, these comments and questions are why I continue to make them, and I'm really happy that they still help people to this day. Okay, so the second question. Help, I want your course, but I don't have PayPal. When I click on the PayPal credit card, I don't get to put my info in. So this particular comment was a tech issue that I had that I have now since resolved. So the reason that I am including this video in my series is because on the screen what the page looks like. So if you do want to invest in the Equi-course and some expanded instruction about how to build a program and how to get real results with the Equiband, then you can invest in the Equi-course. So that that's going to be shown on the screen here. So also one of the reasons that I decided to use PayPal as my payment processor is because you only have to have a PayPal account. You can connect a PayPal account to a bank account, you can connect it to a credit card, you can connect it to a debit card. Like, it's just a payment processor. I know that the tech issue was resolved, but one of the reasons that I used PayPal was because you can actually use any type of payment method with PayPal. And then if you want to check out the Equi-course, the link is down below. So our third question is, what kind of supplements do you use for the tendon injury? So I guess my first caveat here is that I'm going to tell you about a few things, a few that are supplements and a few that aren't supplements, because part of me kind of questions how we're using the word supplement here. So the first thing that I use is something called Cosequin. Now, Cosequin is actually for joint health, but when it comes to a tendon injury, that is an injury to all the bones, the tendons, the ligaments. It's everything around that tendon that actually suffers through the tendon injury. Like, for instance, when you've been injured in your life, the first thing that happens is something around it starts to hurt as well, because you're compensating, right? So the first supplement that I use in terms of during his tendon injury, and I have continued to use it since then, is Cosequin, and I can link that down below. I don't think that injuries are the worst thing that can happen. I think that the hardest part about injury and rehab is once you start to feel better, like, and this is horses don't talk to us, right? So this is me talking about being a human and being an ex-gymnast and having to have rehabbed like a million injuries. The danger is when you start to feel better, that's usually when you either re-injure it or you injure something else because you're like, oh, I feel better. And the problem with horses is, so like a human, you can be like, oh, I feel better, but I'm consciously going to make the decision not to push it. Horses do not think like that. So they're just going to go, oh, I feel better, run across the field and be like, oh, now I feel bad again. And then you have to start over. So the second supplement that I used is actually a muscle builder by Finish Line, and I can link that. I called it applesauce, but what it's for is for building muscle. Now, you don't have to use Finish Line. Finish Line is a product that my barn uses because it is their products are FEI legal. So when horses compete internationally, they are held to a very strict drug regimen, and Finish Line products, one of their selling points is that they are FEI legal. So, I mean, obviously while you're rehabbing a horse, it doesn't matter because they're not signing up for FEI. But the whole point of that was you can use whatever brand you want. I'm just telling you why I used Finish Line. And it's got this applesauce texture to it, so that's why I call it applesauce. But I used a muscle builder because while my horse was coming back from his rehab, I really wanted to help him build his muscles everywhere else. Because think about it this way, when your horse injures themselves, the first thing that happens is they sit. And they sit for, anywhere from 4 months and like there's some that have to sit for like 9 months. Luckily with Fuego's most recent injury, he sat for only, I'm going to say 4 months, where all he could do was hand walk. And the problem is that when they sit, not only do they, obviously they don't gain any muscle by just standing there, But the real issue is they lose all of their muscles that they had from before. It's not like they get to keep their fitness level. And actually, when my horse was a going intermediate horse and got injured, it was kind of a big problem because he was like, guys, you got me all hyped up. He's like, dude, you shouldn't have put my fitness this high if you were going to make me sit for a month or 4 months. So the reality is that I used the muscle builder because not only was he going to have to rehab his leg, but he was also going to have to compensate and rebuild all of those muscles that just dissipated as he sat there during his rehab. So the one caveat I will also add is that if you have a really hot horse, like so if you have a thoroughbred or things like Fuego's name is Fuego, so he's a really hot horse by nature, and the reason that I used the muscle builder is that it didn't, I tested it, right, but it didn't make him hot. So that was why I was okay with continuing to use it, because if it gives them too much energy, then it's counterproductive, because you really want your horse during rehab to stay relatively calm. And so one thing I will say is if you put them on any sort of muscle builder supplement and it makes them a little crazy, then it's maybe not worth, risking them re-injuring themselves. But the muscle builder that I am sharing with you, the Finish Line one, didn't make my horse hot. So, it's going to be on a horse-to-horse basis, right? Like, apparently, 1% of the population is allergic to Advil. I just found that out. I find that crazy. But that means that 1% of the population takes Advil and has an allergic reaction. Everybody, vast majority take Advil and their headache's gone. But there is a so I don't know if your horse is in that 1% or not. So I don't want to pretend to know before, I've ever seen your horse or anything. But the reality is, you can always test things. It's not going to hurt them to test something. And like I said, I used it and it didn't make my horse hot. And my horse is hot by nature. So it didn't make him any worse than he already is. and rehab makes them hot anyway. So when I say it doesn't make them hot, I mean that it doesn't make them worse than they already are, because I always correlate rehab to being trapped in your bathroom, and I'm like, if you trap me in my bathroom for 4 months, I would be crazy when I came out of there. So it's something we can all logically understand, that what they're going through is actually quite difficult for them, especially because horses are meant to run around. Obviously while they're injured doesn't help, so, but you can't explain it to them, can you? So those were the two supplements, in the truest sense of the word supplement, that I used during his rehab to help him with his tendon injury. The first one is Cosequin, joint supplement to help the body maintain its health along the way. And the second was Muscle Builder, which I was using during his rehab. However, I also want to add one more in here, and it is Corona liniment. I wouldn't necessarily call it a supplement. It's a liniment, meaning it's a topical salve that you put on their legs. And during really hard work days, I would use Corona liniment, and I wouldn't use it every day. Anything that I talk about, if you use something every single day, every time you use it, it basically loses value, if that makes sense. So if you use liniment every single day, or if you ice every single day, then it's not going to have the same effect over time. And so, and sometimes when your horse just got injured, then you ice every day for a week, right? But what I'm talking about is you can't just ice every day for 365 days a year and pretend on day 366 that it's going to be have the same effect. It's too much of a good thing, So when it comes to Corona liniment, I was using it strategically, meaning that I would use it after he started jumping, or when he would have a really hard work day, or when I would when we would add more work to the workload. And now that he's not rehabbing anymore, I use the same strategy, right? I use the same strategy. So he gets liniment after he jumps, and he gets liniment after he conditions. So after his really hard work days, he gets help recovering. So that's that. I know that one's not really a supplement, and I actually have two different liniments that I use. One is a Finish Line and one is by Corona. So I'll actually link both of those somewhere. So I'll actually link both of those, and dealer's choice. Like, you guys can pick whatever you feel most comfortable with your horse. I mean, honestly, I would say that most of the advice in this particular video, in this particular question, is about strategy. So I would say that using the muscle builder, there's lots of different brands of muscle builder, but the idea that you give them a muscle builder while they're rehabbing so that they can build their other muscles in accordance with the rehab that they're doing, it's a strategy. And so use whatever muscle builder you want, but the idea is to help them build muscles in the other areas of their body that just kind of went sour sitting in the stall. But it's just advice. Everybody's got tons of advice. So take the stuff you like, leave the stuff you don't like, and I wish you luck. All right, so the next question is, how long do you stay at 10 minutes? And this one actually relates to another question that I already answered, but let's talk about this again. So I always suggest that everybody starts at 10 minutes. And the reason for that is it's a long enough time for your horse to feel the tension and feel an actual workout, but not too long where you risk hurting them. And so what I would say is, after you use it for the initial 10 minutes, you're gonna audit. You're gonna see how hard they're breathing. You're gonna see how, if they're sweaty under the bands at all. You're gonna assess, how hard they had to work. And there's another video that I'm going to link to. So the first one I'm going to link to is the physical signs to look out for after you use the Equiband to be able to track how hard your horse is working. And then I have another video called the Equi-Tracker, where it is a literal spreadsheet that I made so that you can do the math to figure out how tight or loose your bands need to be for where your horse is at. Like, if your horse is just starting out, then there's a certain percentage range, which I'm going to save it for that, like the video's linked. So watch that video. It's going to show you what percentage range to start in and what you're aiming toward. And so you're going to take all of these variables into account and audit how your horse has reacted. So one thing I will say is, the first 10 minutes I put this on my horse, his nostrils were pretty flared, and I was actually quite shocked at how hard he had to work for just 10 minutes with the Equiband on. And that's why I say to everybody, like, only start with 10 minutes, because it's going to be shocking how hard they have to work when they use the Equiband. And it's because it's forcing them to engage muscles in a different way than they ever have before. Now, I have tons and tons and tons of videos about what the Equiband is, how the Equiband's different from anything you've ever used, and I can link to some of those as well too. But the reality is that the Equiband engages their core muscles and their hind end muscles in a different way than anybody can ask them while they're from just riding. Because while your legs and proper seat and things like that can basically make horses use their abs and their hind end, there's nothing like resistance training with the rubber band on. So in terms of the question though, how long do you stay at 10 minutes? The answer is, your horse is gonna have to tell you. Because if you put it on and they're like, holy crap, that was a hard workout, I would stay at 10 minutes for a little bit. If you put it on and you do 10 minutes and the horse is like, was that even on there? Then what I would say is, if you've gone through the Equi-Tracker training and you're starting at the proper tensity, like meaning that you didn't just throw it on and put it for 10 minutes and see what happened, like you know where you're starting from, then I would say that you either do one of two things. You increase the duration or you increase the tensity. So what you would do, if you do the first 10 minutes and your horse looks at you like, so what? Then you either go up to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or you increase the tensity and stay at 10 minutes. And then you're gonna play around with it until you find a until you find an amount that makes them work hard, but not too hard. Okay, so the next video. Hi, he, you got him excited. We do stretches a lot. My horse's masseuse told me how and why to do it. I have to be careful with my mare. She gets too excited and impatient. Do you know anyone who uses blankets from Sport Innovations or any blankets with PEMF and massage? So, love this question. It was posted on my horse stretching video, which I can link here. And yes, my horse absolutely loves to stretch, and it is quite apparent from his reaction how much he likes to stretch, which is my, signal to continue to stretch him because it feels good. One thing I will say is that I stretch my horse twice a week, and I think that it is by far the least utilized aspect because all you have to do is buy carrots. Like it's free. It takes literally like 10 to 20 extra minutes. And it takes very little effort and it makes such a big difference to their body. So, that rant was just to commend you that you actually stretch your horse, because I am at a barn with 60 other horses and I can count on one finger how many people stretch really regularly. Sorry not to call y'all out, but But there's another point that you make here, and you said, I have to be careful with my mare. She gets too excited and impatient. And that is something that I think that is, people think, oh, it's stretching, so this is about stretching. But really, when it comes to horses, everything is about training. So yes, you are stretching, but since carrots are involved, horses tend to go a little like deer in headlights, like, oh my God, it's food. We got to freak out and panic and run people over and do all this crap. So the reality is that yes, you are stretching them. Yes, you are trying to move their body in a way that perhaps is uncomfortable for them or even hard for them. But really what you're doing is you are training them that if they do this, then they get that. And if your horse is being aggressive, then you have to take proper steps to make sure that doesn't continue to happen. So if your horse is being aggressive about the carrots, then you must reprimand them for that, because otherwise this whole task becomes quite dangerous quite fast. And I actually, so my older horse is the one that I stretch twice a week. I actually one time, I had a 3-year-old horse and a 2-year-old horse, and I was like, I'm gonna stretch these guys. And the reality is that their brains, since they don't really understand the concept of work yet, they basically were like falling over to get these carrots. And I was like, okay, like that's not the point, right? That is not the purpose of stretching is to help the body move in different ways. And actually, that would be an interesting experiment to stretch them now, because they are now 5 and 6 and they do regular work. So it might be a different result. But when they were really little, they were seriously blindsided by the fact that I was actually giving them carrots, and one of them almost fell down, like literally almost knocked herself over. So it's worthwhile while you're stretching to make sure that your horse that you're training your horse to stretch. Yes, of course, you are stretching your horse for their benefit, but you also must maintain pretty strict rules. And what's interesting is, my horse, it's a stretching routine. And so I do the same thing the same way every time. And now, for instance, like there's this stretch where they lift their hind leg, and then their neck comes around and they try to touch their nose to their hind leg. And he, the second I go back to his haunches, he now knows and he lifts his own leg because he knows what the stretch is. So you can train them that this is the stretching routine and this is the order we do it in. And my horse is not aggressive about the carrots anymore because he understands that if he does the stretch, then he gets the carrot. So it's important to make sure that you're also training your horse along the way not to be aggressive, because this stretching isn't about carrots. It's about the stretch. And if they do the stretch, then they get the carrot. And they don't get the carrot before they do the stretch. And of course, careful, don't get bitten, like don't get hurt. This isn't, trying to be World War III. It's just a mentality and an approach for you as a rider to say, okay, I am helping you, but the carrot is not the point. And the last question, do you know anyone who uses blankets from Sport Innovations or any blankets with PEMF and massage? So not from Sport Innovations. However, I do know someone who uses the 3-in-1. I know someone who uses Centropix, and I know someone who uses Beamer. And basically everyone says that their blanket is and MagnaWave, that one too. And everybody I've talked to says that their blanket is the best and their blanket gets the best results, and that that they're gonna stand behind whatever brand they use. So interestingly though, the one question that I always ask is, have you noticed a difference since you started using it, right? Like, okay, fine, everyone's gonna say their blanket is the best, their blanket makes the best results, like blah, 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 marketing 101. But basically, have you noticed a difference before and after you started using it? And I will also say universally, that answer is also yes. So while I have found that everybody has a different brand that they prefer, the answer has always been universally yes, that using the PEMF blankets is better than not using them. So take that for what it's worth. And the one thing I will say is I like the Centropix. If and when I'm able to actually buy Fuego one, I like the Centropix one, and the reason for that is because it's a blanket that he and I can eventually share. Because I personally would be interested if the PEMF blanket, to feel it myself. That's the part I'm most interested in. And the Beamer blanket, you have to buy like the human one versus the horse one. And Centropix is one blanket that can be used on the horse or on the human. And then it's like a dial, right? Like you can just go horse mode or human mode. Like versus Beamer is like you have to buy 2 separate blankets that run at 2 separate frequencies. Because, small rant, my understanding is that the different, based on how much blood you have, is how high of a frequency, basically the higher the frequency, the more movement you get internally. And so for horses, they have they're huge, right? So they need it cranked way up. Whereas if you do even the small, my understanding, if you do the smallest setting, even on the horse blanket on a person, that is still way too much. So I like the idea of Centropix being like, okay, here's one blanket that you can just adjust the settings on, and the human can use it or the horse can use it. So that's the one that I'm gonna go with when I buy mine. So happy stretching. And while this video comes with a warning, I would say that stretching is highly beneficial for your horse, so at least try. And if your horse is just way too aggressive, then don't do it again. However, if you keep it in mind that you are training them to stretch, and by being good, they get the carrot as a reward, then you're going to set them up for success too. So just things to think about. Okay. So the next question we have is on the website. They're asking if I need an XL size. I have a tall 16 hand and a bit long saddlebred mare. What size do you have? Okay, so my size is regular and my horse is like 17.1. So what I found really interesting is when it comes to the sizing, it says like up to 16.2 hands for like the regular size, but I have a bigger horse than that, and I've never had like an issue with it. So I would say that if your horse is 16 hands, then you fall into the regular category, like no problem. But what I find really interesting is the regular size fits my horse no problem. He is a slender model, right? So he's not some 17 hand like draft horse. He looks more thoroughbred than he does warm blood, because he's actually all warm blood, but he looks more thoroughbred. So point being, mine is regular and it fits, and he's actually bigger than what they say are the diameters or the maximum parameters for the regular sized horse. So, but they also have Western that looks like it's a little different shape, but I'm gonna say 16 hands, you're regular. This is just funny that I'm gonna add into this video is one of the comments on, so I had a GoPro on when I was doing a cross country course, and someone commented and asked what game I was playing, and I was like, oh, sorry, this is real life. And they were like, no, but what filter? And I'm like, no, just real raw life. I found that one very amusing. Okay, so our next question is, hi, I'm just starting to use the Equiband after finding out that my horse, 9 years old, has unstable, weak stifles. I wonder if it gives me the same effect if only walking. And also, for how long of a time do you do 10 minutes before you add more time? Did you add like 5 minutes more for a few weeks, or how did you do it go achieve where you are today with your 12-year-old? Thanks for great videos. Okay, we made it. So there's a lot of questions in there, so we're gonna go one at a time. So the first one, just starting to use the Equiband after finding out my 9-year-old horse has unstable weak stifles. I'm really sorry to hear that. And unfortunately, horses, while being like extremely durable, can also be like irritatingly fragile. So I'm really sorry to hear that. And but I'm glad that you have the Equiband, because it's going to help build strength so that he can use the other parts of his body to compensate for the weak stifles. So the first one is, I wonder if it gives the same effect if only walking. I'm gonna say yes, because when I first got started with it, I was rehabbing my horse, so I was only allowed to walk. It took like at least a month in my rehab program to start trotting. So if you can only do it at the walk, I'm going to say putting it on is better than not having it at all. And the walk, believe me, when you use it for that first 10 minutes, if the band is fitted properly, it's going to be a true workout for them. And you're going to see the nostrils, you're going to see the breath, you're going to see physical ramifications of how hard the horse is working. And with that being said, be careful. I mean, I know you're working with a vet, so be careful though that you're not pushing it because you're trying to compensate for the fact that you can only walk. Believe me, the walk is, if that's all you can do, then you're still gonna make an impact. You're just gonna go a little slower. And because I was rehabbing my horse, I understand I had to take the slow route. So I'm gonna say yes, the effect is the same. It's just gonna be a little bit of a longer road, which, like I said, I took the long road, love the results. So we all gotta ride our own ride. Okay, next one. And also, for how long time did you do the 10 minutes before you added more time? Now, I've answered this. This is actually a very common question because I've already answered it 3 times in three other questions and 3 other videos. And the answer is your horse is gonna have to tell you. So when you initially do your 10 minutes, you're gonna do like a physical assessment, which I can link that video. You're gonna do a physical assessment of how your horse is handling the workload. And then from there, you're gonna be able to see okay, the next 10 minutes, was it equally as hard or did they get a little better? Was it easier for them or was it the same? And as soon as your horse is showing you that what they're doing is getting easier, then you can increase it in one of 2 ways. You stay at 10 minutes and you increase the resistance of the band, or you keep the resistance of the band as it is and you increase the time. And I'm gonna lump this in with the next question because it says, and did you add 5 minutes more for a few weeks, or how did you go to achieve with my horse? So I'm gonna say yes, I added it in 5-minute increments. However, also because he was doing rehab, the rehab schedule was the one that dictated how many more minutes I was adding, and rehab is exceptionally long. Every week you're only allowed to add 1 or 2 more minutes at a time until you get to 25, and then that's when you start getting checked and all this. So rehab is a really slow, steady process, and so I would say that adding 5 more minutes is a reasonable amount of time. So if you're gonna do your 10 minutes, assess how they're doing, and then they feel ready for the next step, I would say going to 15 minutes, keeping it at the same resistance, is a good next step, especially if your horse is in recovery mode or building up strength to hopefully build up a bit more to be able to compensate for his stifles. But 5 minutes seems like a good amount of time to tack on to that 10 minutes when your horse says that he is ready. I don't know if we said he or she, but when your horse shows you they're ready for more time, I would say adding 5 minutes is a perfectly reasonable amount of addition to add. And like I said, the other option is you stay at 10 minutes and then you increase the resistance, but only do one at a time. I loved building the Equi-course because I was able to take all that I learned, all that I know, and actually build something so that somebody could, from the beginning, they're going to be like, I don't know how to use the Equiband. And when they get to the end of the course, they're like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do with the Equiband. But the one big variable is you and your horse. Side note, that was me setting my alarm for PM instead of AM, which explains why I did not get up at the right time this morning. The point is that the big variable here is you and your horse and you tracking your horse. For instance, when you go to the gym and you're going to start at this workout, and then when that's easy, then you add a little bit more each time. So you just have to work with your horse and audit how hard and easy it is along the way and make judgment calls. And I'm going to say that horses aren't, maybe not all horses are naturally like hard workers. So if your horse comes out one day and they're just like, I don't want to do it, like sometimes you have to be the cheerleader to be like, you can do it, you can do it. And my horse is exceptionally lazy. He's very talented, and so it makes him somewhat lazy. And I will say that there were some days where he was like, I don't want to do it today. And I was like, you can do it. But that comes down to your relationship with your horse, where you know that like, is what you're asking them to do within their capability or not. And when they say, yes, that was easy, I can do this, then, you stay there until you're ready to up it a little bit. And then you stay here until you're ready to up it a little bit. And so with me not knowing anything about your horse, it's hard for me to give you like a definitive answer, but I would say that adding 5 minutes is totally reasonable as long as you're not also increasing the band intensity by like 5 inches. So I hope that your horse's stifles can benefit from a stronger core and a stronger hind end, because I feel like there's a chance with the Equiband that using the Equiband would help eliminate some of those injuries and instabilities, because if they were actually able to use their hind end muscles better, they might be able to use their stifles better and not be so unstable on them. So that's just a working theory, and obviously I don't have enough horses to have a data set, but it's a theory I have because of the results I've seen with the Equiband. And thanks for the great videos. Thank you. I really, really appreciate comments like that, because one of the reasons because I don't get paid to make these videos, I made them because when I first got started with the Equiband, I didn't have anybody to show me exactly what to do. And the vet did give me a rehab plan, but when it came to the Equiband, they basically said, Google it. And when I did that, there weren't very many resources. And so the fact that these videos are helping people to this day is just very validating. Is like why I started making them and why I started sharing them and why I continue to make them. So thank you for watching, and I'm really happy that these videos have helped you. All right, so the next question we have is, hi, I was wondering, is your band folded in half on the belly? And one of the things about the band, which is very frustrating, is it's really hard to maneuver it, but the way that the band is set up is that where you make it longer and shorter is folded in half, because that's the way that it was designed. It's not folded in half because I folded it in half. It's folded in half because that's how the band goes into the clip. And so one of the things that I do when I put the Equiband on is I spend an extra amount of time flattening it. So what I do is I clip it on both sides, and then I take my hand flat and I run it along, like I stretch it a little bit, and I run it along the inside of their on the inside of their abs and then on the inside of their hind end, and flatten the band. And then one thing I will also say, because this question I also get a lot, is how do you get the Equiband not to move? And one thing is for sure using a breastplate so that you are holding and you're connected to the saddle pad, not the saddle, so that you're holding that saddle pad in place as much as you possibly can, because the reality of a resistance rubber band is it's pulling. So you gotta do the best you can, and you know, at a certain point, pulling is pulling. But it's not folded in half because I folded it in half on purpose. It's folded in half because that's how the band is set up to work, and like I said, I spend extra time making sure it's as flat as possible, and then while I do that, I'm also placing it exactly where I want it for alignment with their abs and with their butt. And one of the things I do is I actually follow, so the ab band, the clip is this way, and then the butt one is a little angled. And so one of the things is I place the band in alignment with the way that the clip is facing. So when with the butt one, it's headed this way, and so I tend to put the butt band a little lower. It's not like right under their tail, it's a little lower, but I follow the path of the clip. Okay, so our next question is, what do you have as reins connected to? Is that an attachment to the system? So this is a video that I can play a clip from, but this is a video of me lunging my horse with the Equiband on, just the ab band, not the butt band. I have the surcingle on, that is my saddle replacement. I have a breastplate on that is holding the saddle, that's attached to the saddle pad and the surcingle, so it's holding the saddle pad in place as much as possible. And then I have just a halter on. I don't have a bridle on. I have just a halter on, and then I have side reins attached to the surcingle, and then that's attached to his halter. You know, my horse free lunges, meaning like I can ask him to walk, trot, canter, and without anything on, and he'll listen to that. So one of the reasons that I don't lunge with a bit in is because I don't need that extra control. So I'm just letting you know what I have set up there. But the question is, what do you have his reins connected to, and is that an attachment to the system? So his side reins are connected to the halter, and that is separate from the Equiband system. And one of the reasons that I was using these two things in combination specifically is because I wanted his abs, I wanted his core to engage while he was in the right shape. This was a phase where we were using it on the lunge line specifically. I was using it for his abs specifically, so he had to engage his core, and he was, you know, the side reins hold their head down, so he was forced to be round. So he was stronger and able to hold being round more as like a comfortability thing, because it's just not natural for him. It's very strange. Like, he likes to be almost round. It's like literally his favorite neck position. And so I was trying to help him get more strength in being round, and then therefore being more comfortable, and I would have to stop ragging him about it. It's just how his neck is built, I guess. You know, all horses are gonna have their thing that you're fighting, and I wanted his core to help him with his neck and help build his top line. Thank you so much. I love your videos. I just got my Equiband for my horse in rehab. One concern I have: does the back rubber band ever slip up, or is it pretty secure? Thanks. So first, I just need to say thank you for your comment, and I appreciate that you're validating why I made these videos in the first place. I made them because they were the videos I wish I had when I first got started. And I also started with the Equiband because my horse was in rehab. So I 100% feel like all the concerns, because especially when I first got started with the Equiband in rehab, I didn't actually know anything about the Equiband, and I'd never used it before, and so it was all new. And on top of that, like, the stress of rehabbing a horse, like, I feel ya on that one. Like, dude, when our horses are hurt, we're hurt. That mental space that you're in is so uncertain. I just want them to feel better. So it's coming from a good place, but it's really stressful on the human. So does the back rubber band ever slip up, or is it pretty secure? So one thing that I do is I always use the Equiband with a breastplate. So, and I attach the breastplate to the the Equiband pad, not my saddle. And one thing that does is it helps hold the saddle pad in place, which then helps hold the bands in place. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that the bands never slip. I have found that actually, ironically, I get a lot of comments about the butt band slipping, but I have always found that the ab bands on my horse slips, because like when he engages his core, it loosens the band and it slides back. So it's funny because I get a lot of comments about the butt band slipping, and for me, I've experienced the ab band slipping because, and this is just the logic I've assigned to it, is that when he's engaging his core, a looseness in that band, and then it slides. And that doesn't mean just crank up the tensity, right? That doesn't mean, just crank it all up. Whenever I'm using the Equiband, I'm measuring it and I'm making sure that it's on the proper setting, but I also can't help the fact that even if I challenge him and make it a little tighter, the same thing happens. He engages his core and it slides. So the answer isn't tighter. But if you're having that with the butt band, my logic is that it means that they're engaging their hind end, which is then moving the band. And so there's no real way to keep it in place. But what I will say is I have found the more secure I can make the saddle pad, better chance the bands have. Because if the saddle pad moves, then the bands are 100% gonna move. So that's my 2 cents there. It's, not perfect, but nothing in life is. And also, again, thank you. I really appreciate your comment, and I appreciate that you love the videos. I can't even reiterate how happy it makes me that these videos are still they're helping people, and they're still helping people to this day. It's why I started creating them in the first place, and the fact that they're helping people is like the biggest. It's a gift, the gift that keeps on giving. All right, so our next question is, can you use this with racehorses? How long do you use it for? So the short answer to this question is yes. The Equiband system can help with all horses. It can help with horses of all shapes and sizes. It can help with English versus Western. Any horse that has to do a physical job, I would say that it's maybe not beneficial for pasture animals because, they don't really need this extra muscle tone. But any horse that is competitive in English or Western, any horse that is doing any extra, trail riding, like any horse that's racing, that's hard work. Any horse that's doing any extra physical work can benefit from having extra ab and butt and hind end muscles. So one of the reasons the Equiband is so different is because, so even racehorses, right? So you guys go and you breeze. So you get out and when they do their workouts, they are going out for like a long lopey gallop, and that builds up their endurance. But that is the equivalent of only ever running on a treadmill. And if you also cross-train running on a treadmill with lifting weights, then that makes your running on a treadmill more effective. And that's what the Equiband is. The Equiband is your weight day versus doing, horses run on treadmills. That's essentially their workout. Like cycling, if you like cycling better, I don't care. But the point is that horses do endurance training. And so when you cross-train with the Equiband, regardless of what type of riding you do, you're giving your horse more muscle to improve their endurance training. So I would say any horse that does any kind of work for any competitive reason, English, Western, racing, it doesn't matter to me. My belief is any horse that doesn't have the opportunity to work with the Equiband is the same as Harry Potter never getting to go to Hogwarts, because it's just lost potential. So I hope you enjoyed this video on all of the most asked questions I get about the Equiband. Please keep the questions coming, because chances are if you have the question, somebody else has the question, and I can't read your mind. So if you comment on the video your question, there's a very real chance that your question is going to end up in a video, and you'll get your answer, not just in written form, because I have responded to all these questions as well, but I wanted to make these videos. There's the compilation video of all the questions, and then there's also the individual videos of all the individual questions. This channel is trying to continue to help educate people on how to build the best Equiband program for their horse and get the results, the amazing results that I've seen. I used the Equiband back in 2021, and it is now 2024. In addition to the fact that it was a game changer on my horse's rehab, the benefits of him being able to use his body better, transcended his rehab. And I'll link my reaction video. I did a side-by-side comparison of before and after the Equiband, because one of the things that he improved upon is his straightness. And straightness in and of itself is I'm in a 3-day eventer. So you do dressage, you do cross country, and you do stadium jumping. Straightness is 100% in dressage, and straightness is 100% in jumping. And especially because he's an intermediate level horse trying to go advanced this year, straightness, when you have to be that accurate on a cross-country fence, is bar none the most important skill that you can have. And while the Equiband can't turn every horse into an advanced horse, that has to be some natural talent attached to it. That straightness enables them to do the job better. And so whether they're jumping, a training skinny or whether they're jumping an advanced skinny, the straightness factor is always there. And so my point being,
1 hour later,
that the results that I've seen with the Equiband were not just beneficial to his rehab, they were beneficial to how he uses his body to this day. And if you do this right, if you build the program right, if you build up that strength right, it doesn't mean you have to use it forever. It means you have to use it for an amount of time that enables them to use their body better, and then you can use it as more of like a maintenance tool. You don't have to use it all day, every day. It's like a workout program. It's a workout regime. Not everybody struggles with the exact same thing. I venture to guess that every single horse is going to benefit in their own way. So, for instance, my horse struggled with straightness because his body is really crooked, because his neck is not very long, so he has a hard time reaching the ground. So the way he eats kind of set him up for not success from the get-go. However, the argument remains, if you give your horse more strength to do the endurance test, whatever your endurance test is, whether it's jumping, dressage, eventing, western, racing, it doesn't matter. If you give your horse more strength in their ability to do the work, then the work can get better. And so I would venture a guess that everybody's going to get their own best results with the Equiband. My horse personally struggled with straightness, really struggled, but that was where he really got the benefit of the Equiband. I hope that these questions have helped, because I guarantee if one person has the question, more than one person has the question. So keep the questions coming, and I will keep answering them. See you on the next one.